Welcome to the Bulletproof Cashflow podcast, the go-to place to gain financial freedom through real estate investing. Here we interview investors, mentors, and entrepreneurs who share their secrets and advice to help you build passive income. Let's get into the show.
Hey everyone, it's Agostino. For many investors, one of the greatest benefits of building passive income in real estate is the ability to spend time doing what they want to do when they want to do it. However, it all comes down to putting together a sustainable real estate portfolio. Well, today's guest is a real estate veteran. He's been in the real estate game for over 27 years. He's been through several economic cycles and has since designed a life centered around real estate to ultimately find freedom. But it wasn't without its challenges. Growing and scaling a real estate portfolio and preparing it to get through the rough patches takes some work. As he would say, it all comes down to aligning your values, your purpose, and your mission for better communication and business growth. Now, he's an Amazon best-selling author of Real Estate on Your Terms and the founder of SmartRealEstateCoach.com. He's also the host of the Smart Real Estate Coach podcast. With all that, I'd like to welcome Chris Prefontaine to the show. Hey, Chris, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks, buddy. Glad to be here, Agostino.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So before we go on, if you like what Chris has to say, check out his company website at smartrealestatecoach.com. Don't forget to check out his podcast too. And of course, if you like our content, please don't forget to leave a comment and rate the show. All right, Chris, give the listeners a brief intro as to how you got your start in real estate.
Yeah, I'll go back and you can, go back to detail any one of those. I kind of give you a 10,000 foot view. So I started in 91. So I'm definitely dating myself there. Started building homes, what we call infill building, one lot at a time in an existing subdivision. But we did it back then, Agostino, without knowing it. We did it on terms, meaning I would stick a sign in someone's yard with permission to do so. I would say, I'm going to pre-sell a house. I'm going to then build the house. All the subcontractors are going to wait till the end. And then when the loan gets done from the buyer, everybody gets cashed out. And I got that simple idea from my Earl Nightingale tape. A lot of you listeners probably won't even know him, right? He passed away.
Oh yeah, I know Earl Nightingale, yeah.
When I was driving, working for a family company, nothing to do with real estate. And that gave me that idea because someone did it during the Depression. And I started doing that. We built a couple hundred homes from doing that. And then I had a realty executives franchise, put a broker hat on, had never been a broker. And the goal was to sell that, not to do it forever, with the realtors. So I sold that in 2000 to a Coldwell Banker and then started coaching around the United States and Canada and running my own investments. But that led up to the great debacle of 2008. And so that caused us to really re-engineer, rethink about how we do business, which is what we're doing today, buying and selling only on terms, meaning no banks, no personal signatures on loans. After learning the hard way, you figure out real quick you don't want to do that again.
Right. And it's funny because I read a lot of material on how to do exactly that, like basically owner finance type of deals. Now, so you described a little bit about where you discovered this. What sort of other things do you do? Like, what sort of things are at anybody's disposal, really? I mean, it sounds to me like it's really good for smaller deals, right?
Okay. So this is a good question because we do this on single family homes, right? They're easy to fill and we fill them all with rent-owned buyers, which we can talk about. So buyers need more time to get financing, not renters. Big difference. So yes, they can be smaller deals, but let me quantify that. This might surprise you. So our average in-house for our family company is around 75 grand per deal. And that consists of 3 different paydays, which we can talk about because any business owner, think about this, any single solopreneur, real estate investor, we create cash now, like when we fill the home. And that average is like, out of the 75, that average is like 28 grand. Then we create cash monthly, like literally the next month after they're in, you're cash flow positive anywhere between $300 and $1,000. And then we create the payday at the end, payday 3, when the house cashes out. So that's where the paydays come from. And around the country, our associates, our students range like 45,000 up to as high as 125. There's been bigger ones, but that's per deal. So can this be done then outside of single families? Yeah, we do it on multis, but I'm not talking 100 units. I'm talking about 4, 6, 8 unit buildings. And buying and selling on terms is not new. You know this. People do it with planes and cars. You can buy on terms. You can buy anything you want on terms. So we do mostly lease purchase, owner financing, and subject to existing financing. Those are the 3 ways we buy.
Excellent. And it's funny because this whole single family, especially the single family, was really pushed by Carlton Sheets and all those guys back in the.
Oh, I remember.
I remember all that back in the 80s.
Yep.
And I think when money is as cheap as it is today, people seem to maybe forget a lot about the whole subject to. Would you agree?
I do, but here's the caution I would throw up. And you and I were talking before the show about just going through cycles and stuff. Yes, it's cheap, but in most cases, and there's always exceptions to everything I'm going to say, you're signing personally on loans when you're taking those loans out, unless you're doing it privately, and I get that, but then you get the issue of, going out and asking for money. So there's different ways of looking at this. I just personally would not want to sign personally on loans. I just don't do it anymore, because when the crash happened in '08 and values went, in some of my markets, they went down 2/3 with condo conversions.
Wow.
So a condo we were selling for 172. I remember this like it was yesterday. We couldn't sell for 50 to save our life. So where do you think the bank's looking? They're looking at you. You signed personally on it. They're coming knocking on your door. But that's a nightmare. So if you don't sign personally on anything, even though the money's cheap, then you're not going to sleep at night with that headache or potential headache.
Yeah, absolutely. So now let's talk about that then. So how do you actually get into these deals in the first place? So if someone's looking to build that financial freedom, and I love the concept of getting in, no bank financing, and you basically work out a deal with the owner. But how do you actually locate the deal and sell them on the whole concept?
Yeah, everyone asks that. How do you convince? How do you sell? So let me answer that first and tell you how to find them. So we don't ever convince or sell. What we want to do is, if you're my seller, I want to find out what your headache is. And it's not always a bad thing, right? It could be, I'll give you an example. Pennsylvania, this is a student deal, 10-acre estate, gorgeous house, debt-free. I love the debt-free homes. And he just wanted all the money and could wait for his cash. That's a lot. That's a third of the homes in the United States right now are debt-free, roughly. So when I say find their headache, his headache was, I want all the money. I want someone that I can trust to take care of the home. I'm relocating. My 5 kids are in Texas. I got to go. So that was his headache. So we solved it. So the issue is solve the problem like an accountant, attorney, an auto body shop, solve their issue. So you're not convincing them. You're just providing solutions. Now, how do we find these? There's a number of different ways, but our main basis for finding these would be expired listings. They didn't sell with a realtor for whatever reason, overpriced, functionality, condition, for sale by owners, for rent by owners. Very big right now. Those 3 things will shift in importance as markets shift, right? So for sale by owners is selling right now. Okay, so those are harder to get. You got to follow up more. You got to talk to more. Free and clear mailings, I love. Free and clear or out of state. So those are kind of like 5 sources that we love, and just depending on what you're looking for.
Excellent. So once you find this deal, then you do like I'm assuming some sort of mail blast, cold calling, that kind of thing.
Okay, good. We have virtual assistants calling on the expireds and the for sale by owners and the for rent by owners, as well as us. So our students, when they're brand new, we want them to start calling and kind of learning how to do that.
Get used to it, sure.
Yeah, you got to talk to sellers. Everything can't be behind the screen, even though some people might tell you that.
Yeah.
You got to talk to people. So virtual assistants who then produce a valid seller that says, yeah, I'm open to hearing from Chris or from Agostino about this terms thing or owner financing. Yeah. So then we call them. Now we're talking to people that want to talk to us. On the free and clear and out of state, yeah, that'd be a mailing. On the other 3 sources, they're calls for sale by owner, for rent by owner, expired.
Excellent. So leading up to the crash, so taking a step back from 2008 and all that, so you're doing this type of model, right?
Not before the crash, only after the crash, because of the crash.
Because of the crash.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your portfolio. You touched on it before the call. Let's talk a little bit about the portfolio today and how you think it's gonna survive all the way through, and why you think that is.
Sure. So we carry at any one time, because we sell on a rent to own or owner financing, they're going to cash out at some point, right? And some of them even sooner than you want, because their life gets together faster and they call you and say, hey, I'm cashing you out. So because we do that, these things are staggered throughout the years, right? Literally, because we did enough groundwork, we'll have closing for as long as we can see, 1 a month plus, cashing these out. So 50 or 60 properties. And then the students around the country maybe have another, say, 30 or so right now. So let's say we're managing in some shape, form, or fashion 80 properties. That means that when the market dips and does what it's going to do or pulls back, all we care about is one main thing. How far out do we have for a term? Because if you have a long enough term, think about it, you can weather most markets. To compound that, 2 things are important. When we buy an owner financing, because I know owner financing means a lot to different people, we buy free and clear homes and we make principal only payments monthly. So the principal's pounding down. Talk about recession proof. So let's say it's only $1,500 a month. That's $30,000 a year coming off principal. 3 years, you just took off almost $100,000 in principal by doing that owner financing deal the right way. So it's super important to do it that way. And then when you sell it, is it important to do either owner financing long-term or rent-to-own long-term? Yeah, same reason. So the market has time to do its thing and you have time for the principal to come down.
So you're paying the principal as opposed to the interest then, right?
Yeah.
Because typically when you're in an amortization schedule, you're paying the interest first.
Opposite. Yeah.
Yeah, you're paying the opposite. So in this case, though, you're paying the principal down before the interest.
We don't even pay interest ever.
Oh, so zero interest.
Zero interest.
Even better.
Yeah. Now, there's hybrids to all this stuff we're talking about, right? So let me give you an example. I might, right today, you and I were talking about us, you and I being in the trenches and teaching. This is what we're big advocates of. So just today, I got an email back from a seller. We had a 4-year owner financing deal. Every December, and it's principal only, $923 a month. Every December, I say to them, hey, I'll pay down the principal by $5,000 or $6,000 if you extend the term a year. So I give them their money just ahead of time, but they push the term out a year. Now I get more principal pay down. I did that 2 years in a row. So now we're in now for like 5th or 6th year of a 4-year deal. And then I say to them, hey, why don't we now put an interest rate on it and push it out to 15 years with a balloon in 15 years? House is going to be almost paid off by then. To which their accountant said, good for you, good for your cash flow, good for your accounting. Yes, do it. That was just today. So we mix and match some of these deals and make them last longer.
And I think that what you're also doing is you're conditioning the seller into trusting you, right? That's also a big part of it.
It's a stair step, 100%.
Yeah, it's a stair step. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's beautiful. Love that. So obviously this must be included in, I know you train in doing this. So
yeah, we do it live with them. Yeah.
Yeah. So how does that work? Because this is good stuff.
So we only run 2 events a year. And so it's not like we run around doing promo events. I'm not a big advocate of those because they just put you to something else. But who comes to our events? People who have been through our foundation course are in the room. Everybody's talking the same tune. Everybody knows exactly the kind of the foundation model. And then if they decide to go off and do deals on their own, fantastic. They have our support for a year with the course on email, like unlimited. If they decide to lock arms with us and get more aggressive, then we do rev share with them. So that means if you have a deal and you're brand new and you say, man, I know they're interested, but I don't know if I'm saying the right thing. We pick up the phone and call them. Hey, Agostino told me to give you a call. I'm a senior associate. We don't use the word partner anymore just for legal, but same thing. And we say, here to answer any questions. And we literally conduct the deal. If it's in a state where we tape the call. So we're each learning, the student and us, as we go through the deal together. I mean, it's hands-on.
Excellent. Yeah, that's just the way I like it though too. We have a similar coaching thing where it's actually hands-on, walking deals, negotiating, all that.
It's the only way they're going to get it.
It's the only way. Absolutely.
And implement. I think you and I talked about it before, like taking action and implementing. Let me explain what I call the gap. So there's this huge, and you must see this in your niche. You have this time period where they go to a course or go through a course or go to a seminar to the time period they actually get a deal done. There's a big gap.
Yeah.
And we get students weekly saying, yeah, but I don't know if I should buy a course because I've spent $10,000, $20,000 on courses and I haven't done a deal. I can't imagine that. We have 2 students, Agostino, that spent 6 figures cumulatively before coming to us. One of them has probably on their 4th or 5th deal, but keep in mind per deal is pretty high with us. And one of them, it's a female out in Arizona on her 8th deal. They did 0 deals, but they spent $100,000 before meeting us. So it's too bad. What I tell them is, if you're listening and this happened to you, put it behind you, use it as a learning, experience, and say, now let's go forward and get some deals done with someone like you or us, depending on what niche they want.
Yeah, and I think that as a coach, what you're doing and what we do too is you're hitting them up every week. You're spending time with them every week. There's a call. There's some sort of a push. It isn't like they're in a rut right now. They're doing the rat race or whatever it is. They show up to some sort of 3-day event. And then after that, they just go back to their rut starting on Monday and they just go back to the same thing. And it's like, I wish I can do real estate, but they don't.
Yeah,
right?
Life happens.
Yeah, life happens and they just forget about it as opposed to getting coaching, which is very different.
Yeah.
Very different because you're getting that reminder every week or whatever it is. If it's predetermined, that you hit them up.
Yeah, well, you just brought up a biggie because we added a few things in the last 2 years. We added instead of a conference call, it's now a Zoom live call like you and I are chatting and we can see each other. So we have, 30, 40, 50 people on there. Then we also have a Slack community. So they're all talking all the time, 24/7. So we learn from it. I mean, if we don't have the answer and someone posts an answer to the members, they're going to get 5 views from people that are doing deals. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And that's the value of a coach, especially in this realm right now, because there's people that come out to our events and we talked about it before. They want to get into this business. They, for whatever reason, they just can't get over the hump to actually go ahead and execute.
Yeah.
Maybe they're scared. maybe they're afraid to spend whatever it is, the cost to get into the coaching program, but that'll dwarf whatever you're going to make on your first deal alone if you do it right.
Yeah, it does. And to our earlier talking about only working with people in whatever niche or whatever business, frankly, where people have actually done it. Well, it's no different. And no matter what you're talking about, it's no different locking arms with someone. Like everything I've ever done, I've said, okay, let's just find someone that did it and pay them a little bit. I mean, literally everything, like sports, working out, nutrition, find someone that did it or is still doing it, more importantly, and pay them and get your return on investment is insane.
Yeah, absolutely. So getting back to building that portfolio,
yeah,
right, and building that freedom that we were talking about before, there's a great, I guess, a scare going on in terms of recession and all this fun stuff. I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, honestly.
Me too.
There's that, and I think there's also the media really trying to scare people into a recession as well. There's that as well. There's a great deal of talk and static around that.
That's the only way they get their reviews, right? Their ratings.
Yeah. Yep. So regardless, we can't stop it. All we can do is really protect ourselves from this. So now, having been through several crashes, you have a lot of experience doing this. What sort of things did you do previous to 2008 that really were mistakes?
Yeah.
And what got you through them?
And what should they do, right? Like that, 'cause that's kind of the same answer.
And what should they do? Yeah.
Okay. So we don't use cash anymore. Before we either used cash, down payment conventional, what people are used to, or investor money for the same, but then the properties were too leveraged. So that's problemo number one. Second was what I said earlier, signing personally on loans. So when your credit's really good, you say, well, why not? I'll just do this one. We did a ton of that because the credit was good back then. Well, before I know it, when the crash happens, now the credit's in the toilet. Now you got to start over. So no more of that. And so what else should you do as you go forward? Set up, not only don't use your cash and don't sign personally, but set up lines of credit. And I mean, business lines of credit, not your personal social. And it takes some time to establish that, but go through the pain and the process of doing that so that in even a year, certainly 2 and 3, you'll have business lines set up for the rainy day, for the challenging time, for the pullback in the market. And like you, I don't think it's going to be like it was in 2008, but who knows? If we knew that, we'd be on the beach somewhere forever and we wouldn't be talking right now.
I might be on the beach at some point soon, though, for sure.
Good.
But that's the thing, though, too, is lining up all those lines of credit, making sure you have all that cash available for when you're going to need it, because everything will be on sale, and then at that point, and it's the only way to take advantage of it.
You'll do well.
Yeah,
you'll do extremely well. And even on terms deals, I mean, there's all exceptions to what we've been talking about. Even on terms deals, is it better to have on occasion some cash set aside? Sure. What if someone will give you their house and 50 grand of equity, but they need 3 grand to move? And these things happen all the time. So would it be helpful for you to have a small line of credit set up for that, or some cash? Sure, it would. You'll get better deals, and you'll set yourself up for, with this portfolio that you're referring to for decades. This is a big deal.
It's huge. No, love it. So now when you're setting up for passive income, what sort of deals are you doing for that? Like in terms of this portfolio you have today? I mean, is that all just passive? Is someone actually working that deal, assuring that cash is coming in? Is someone actually running that? And how does that work?
Yeah, so we have just a part-time assistant in-house that serves as the person running that, only because, with exception, most of the buyers who are putting in the home are buyers needing time. So do we have the occasional headache? Yeah, of course you do. Life happens to people and the deals change. But in general, 95, let's say 90 to be safe. 90% of these are going to run on their own. Checks come in. Your payday 2 that I referred to earlier comes in every month. You already got a nice chunk up front. You're waiting for a chunk on the back. That's how it works. 2 to 10% a year are going to have a headache and you got to run them.
Right.
But they're pretty passive. And then, so picture this. So someone gets involved. 18 months in, they've got 12 deals. Be conservative. Now you got 12 properties that are paying monthly, that are staggered out 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years for a cash out. So you can literally put that on a spreadsheet and say, okay, 75 grand per deal, spread out over 8 years, 7, whatever. You then can say, lifestyle wise, all right, I'm going to take the next 90 days off. I got this all mapped out. I got a part-time assistant helping me in case a call comes in. Take 90 days off, come back and, get after it again. You have that luxury.
Yeah. That's why I love real estate, though. I mean, you can almost...
Exactly. Almost any niche you can think of if you do it right?
Yes, absolutely. So now let's talk a little bit about some of these assets that you're buying and locations and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You did touch on the method, are there certain locations that you're finding that make more sense than others? And how do you select those?
We do it purely, you're going to wish I had a better answer for this, but we do it purely based on where we are. Frankly, right around here, we live on an island. So we got to get off the island to buy. Other than that, we buy in 3 states right around us. And then the students, I tell them to stay within an hour of where they live, unless we have a brand new student just came in on board, not far from me in Boston. And when I say in Boston, she is in the city, smack in the city. So I said, you're not going to find a lot of for sale by owners and expireds that need you right now. Boston's hot in the city, but you can drive 20 minutes and you can be in the outer towns. So that's the only exception. Other than that, there's plenty of deals. Think of this: single family homes that don't sell with a realtor that come up on the expired list. I don't care how hot the market is, they exist. Free and clear homes in every marketplace that doesn't want their cash right now, that don't want their cash right now, the sellers, they exist in every marketplace and always will be. This building I'm in, that I'm talking to you right now, we bought this owner financing, no banks, no personal signature last year. And we have our offices in it, all our companies, and we have a couple tenants. And it's a 20-year deal.
Wow.
These exist everywhere. You just have to know where to fish.
Yeah. I mean, even commercial deals, it works great.
Of course.
Right. That's the beautiful thing about it. And so you don't really care about whether it's a secondary market or tertiary market. It's irrelevant as long as it's the house.
No, it's a lot different than the whole run up and very strategic run up with multis. I know. Yeah, definitely different.
Yeah. So what sort of considerations are there, if anything, in terms of that?
If you wouldn't want your wife, significant other, or daughter driving through the neighborhood, then you don't want the house, because if they do have a headache, you got to deal with it, even though they supposedly buyers are going to buy your house, right? So that's an issue.
Right.
I like the quote unquote sweet spot in each market if I had my pick, but I do teach the students how to get a variety going. So for example, for us, it might be low 2s to 700, right? But for my student in DC, he's on his like 18th deal. His sweet spot, like ours, is probably 6 to 1.2. And that's why his average is much higher too for profits, but that's because of the market he's in. So the sweet spot, depending on what it is in your market, kind of the median and slightly higher.
Right. And to your point too, what you just said is those owner finance deals, they typically will take better care of the asset because they make it their home, right? They consider it their house,
Yeah.
which is very different from some of the renters that I have to deal with.
Well, yeah. And if we goof, like in our earlier days, we goofed more, but I'm not going to say we don't still. But if we were in a hurry to get a buyer in there, or we wanted cash flow and we took a little bit less than we should have down, all we have is a glorified renter.
Yeah.
Because they get to put first and last or whatever down. So if we instead push a higher deposit with our wording in our ads now, even say a deserving buyer with a big deposit, now you do have a buyer that understands they're looking for a time ramp. They're not looking for rent. Big difference.
Right. And part of it is just what you said too. And the marketing side is you're positioning this as not just as a rent to own type scenario, but as a buyer. And the wording, the language that you're using makes all the difference in the world.
That's a good point, because these are not, hey, I'm going to go into this and I may or may not buy it. No, you're putting down like 10% eventually, and it could be over time, but you're putting down a sizable deposit and you are buying it on or before this date, or you lose your deposit. So this is a said certain thing we're doing here. And oh, by the way, here's the pre-screening you're going through, and here's the mortgage ready plan, and here's what you have to do to get mortgage ready, and let's stay on that path.
Yes.
Big difference. I know there's mentors out there, and it's public, so I'm not talking out of school, who will publicly say, oh, yeah, we do rent to own, and I don't ever want them to cash out. I'll just put another one in. Okay, that may be true legally, but morally and ethically, it stinks. And so that's not our philosophy. Our philosophy is complete inverse relationship. We want 90 to 100% of these to cash out versus that person saying, I don't, I cash out 5 or 10% and I don't care.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. That for some people, that is the model, is just to churn them and then maybe even push them out if they could.
Exactly. It's bogus.
It is bogus because the whole point is of what you're doing and what you're teaching is to ethically get people in and get them a home.
Yeah. And it's a cool experience when you do it right to that point.
Yes. And just like I said though, too, when you're cashing out, conceivably, you're making some money there at the end too, right?
Yeah, we have one tomorrow. So let me tell you, it's on my brain. It's on my board right here. So where does that third payday come from? Well, about, 3 or 4 years ago when we got this, it was about break even, leverage wise. He couldn't do anything. So we bought it subject to. It was my son-in-law's first deal, I think, when he came with me. So it must have been, 3+ years ago. So the first payday was they put a payment down. Second payday is every month we made cash flow. This third payday coming tomorrow, supposed to be today, is all the principal pay down that accrued during that time period and my original markup of the price. So tomorrow, this 57 grand net coming off the settlement sheet. Well, I already took in a deposit of, let's say 20 and a monthly cash flow of, let's say 400. Add that up. That's above our average already.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love this line of business. It's great. And you get to help people out at the same time too.
Oh, it's a win-win. My son, when he came, I used to be a realtor too, but when he resigned his license to be full-time, he said, so much healthier than dealing with, the bickering and the haggling and the realtors whining at each other. And nothing, no offense, I was one, but I'm just saying, it's so much healthier. The seller's happy, the buyer's happy. You're not providing a service. You're actually getting equity in their home or buying their home. I mean, it's a big deal.
Right. So tell me a little bit about the houses that you don't buy. So what sort of things, aside from what you described earlier, where you wouldn't want your wife, daughter driving through a spot, how bad is the condition of the house when you're taking it over? Things like that.
We, for the most part, deal in nicer homes. One of our students just put one together in Connecticut that was not that great. It couldn't sell for like 10 months because he started rehabbing and he just stopped, and it's an older home. But my first question to him was, and it's his first deal actually, and I said, is it habitable first? If it's not habitable, it doesn't work for us unless we want to wholesale or flip it, but that's not our main line. So he said, yeah, it's habitable. I went through it. He actually does interior trim himself, so he gets what to look at. So I said, okay, so if the thing's worth $215 on the, after repair value, if someone fixed it, put it on for like $190 and just tell a home, handyman, we'll do a rent to own and you can fix it up as long as you're capable and willing to do that and put it in the agreement. Well, in 2 weeks, they had it filled and they're closing next week. And so it can be beat up. It just has to be habitable, and you have to market it and have an understanding and leave room for that person to come in and get some sweat equity.
Right. So in that case, then, so they bought it for $190, so they're going to sell it to.
No, they bought this subject to, it's all closing next week. A brand new deal. 161 is the underlying debt. They're buying it subject to the existing debt. And they put it on for $189.9, and they actually got a 22 grand down payment from this buyer at that price range. That's pretty strong. That's above our average.
Wow, that's good.
And then they're going to make about $400 a month plus principal pay down. So then they get a nice back end. But keep in mind, there's no clock ticking. They bought it subject to. So they gave the buyer a 5-year term. That's nice long term.
Wow. Excellent.
Yeah.
Did you help them with that? Put that deal together?
Yeah. It's one of our higher end students. Yeah. It's their first deal. They've been at it. They've been hitting it hard, part time for 9 months, and they just popped that, and they have like 300 agreement, coming up. It's pretty neat to see the growth.
So conceivably, then, if he puts together like 5 or 6 of these deals, he's gonna be doing just fine.
He'll then leave his job. His wife loves her job, and she's gonna stay put. But they do this as a team part time, and he just can't wait to leave what he's doing, physically working.
Right.
Yeah. But that's cool to see. So we were talking before your show. They never had real estate. Never. I did a video with him yesterday because they just did this deal. And I go, what was your experience before us? And he said, I bought a home and rehabbed it on accident. It was our own home. And we kind of made some money. Like they didn't ever did anything, So it was great to see. And to your question, the other thing we wouldn't buy, you can't buy, is if someone calls, and we do get this, and I'm sure you do, and says, I haven't paid my mortgage in like a year or two. I've gotten 2 years from people.
Wow.
And there's no equity. So what the hell am I going to do? I'm not going to come up with 100 grand cash to catch you up, and then there's no equity. But do we take care of some arrears for people that have equity? Yeah, we do that a lot, small amounts, but they can't wait a year or two and then call us a little late.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. Like, why would they wait a year or whatever to finally give you a call? Like, and is there a way to catch them before that actually happens?
Oh, sure. You can go to. I just don't target since all the new consumer laws, but you can target pre-notice of default. You can target newer loans that are, you can buy a list, as you know, about anything right now. What color socks they wear on Thursday afternoon when they go, it's crazy. So you can target those, but there's consumer laws with foreclosure and pre-foreclosure, and I just don't want to mess with it. And it's too risky to have me try to tell my students to do it when I don't know all the laws in all the states. So I just don't want to step those,
Right.
But to answer your question, they probably put their head in the sand, like a lot of people did in the crash, right? Something's going to change. Something's going to get better. The bank's going to help them. And then the loan mod doesn't go for 6 months. All that stuff builds up, sadly enough.
But that's exactly what happened in 2008, or just after 2008, when things really fell apart. People would just walk away from the houses and that's it. And then next thing you know, they're trying to call someone for help 6 months later, but the bank's already sent the letter. It's already done.
Way too late.
Yeah. It's already over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, tell me a little bit about what you think the next 5 years for your business are going to look like then. I mean, are you concerned about a correction, crashes, anything else like that?
I'm not concerned. Like you, we talked lightly about this. I think it might level out or pull back a little bit. I just don't personally think it's going to be like an 08. I think I'll never say never. Again, we'd be on the beach somewhere if we knew that. So for me, when it slows down even a teeny bit, we'll buy more and we'll buy more readily because it'll take less people to talk to, right? So the only difference will be we'll get deals with less leads like we were in 13.
Right.
In 13, let me give you an example. It might have taken me 25 or so conversations to get a deal. And now it's probably up to 45. I'm just roughly speaking. So that'll come back down. It's okay. As long as you know the numbers, right? We're all about metrics. So that's the next 5 years. Who knows? I can tell you what we're doing. We're pushing for longer and longer terms. What we said at the beginning of the show. We're pushing for more owner financing and subject to versus sandwich lease. But the options are always there, but that's what our mindset is. And definitely on the selling side, either longer terms or on a financing when we sell, like you said earlier, because now you got a different buyer. You got a bigger check up front and you got a different mindset.
Right. Maybe go through and describe those 3 different ways, the sandwich lease, the subject to, all that for the listeners.
Sure. So the owner financing is the one we've been talking about where we just make principal only payments. So that one's pretty simple. Subject to is to the deal I just talked about with the student is the guy had on the market for $189,999 or $199,999. He couldn't sell for 10 months. And the long story short, they ended up buying it for what was owed, $161. So they'll go and they'll pay the tax stamps to transfer it because you can't expect them to pay that if they're not getting any money. So no money down. He buys the house, $161 debt. He starts making the payment. Meanwhile, he already has a buyer. Literally found a buyer within 2 weeks. So his closing wasn't until the end of September. They pushed the closing up and said, let's go. We can close this now. That's a subject to, and we exit all these the same way, right? We put that buyer that needs time in there. And then the sandwich lease is a little different because I could give you 10 scenarios, but usually someone doesn't want to pay commission or they owe close to what it's worth, or they just won't budge on price. So let's go with someone that has a house for $300, they owe $250. If they sold it outright, they pay a commission, they get haggled on price, they're not going to get $50,000 out. They might get 30 out, right? We're able to say with a long enough term, hey, Agostino, you owe $250. Well, here's what we'll do. We'll do a 4-year deal, hypothetically. And at the end of the 4 years, we're going to pay off your loan, which is not $250 anymore, so we benefit. And we're going to give you your $50,000 cash. So we just locked in all their equity. They didn't lose anything.
Wow.
Now they got to pay their tax stamps. We used to even pay that, but when they have equity now, we let them pay it at the end because frankly, no one ever even brought that up. They just assume they're going to pay it unless they have zero equity, in which case they even know where to pay it.
Right. But now, is there concern that they won't pay the taxes then? Or are you worried about that? Or?
Oh, it's all us.
Okay.
Oh, the transfer tax, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, it comes to the closing and they're going to get $50,000 less some small transfer tax, and they're going to get their mortgage paid off that's in their name. I've never had pullback on that.
Okay.
No.
Okay. And going back to the subject to, you're basically making the mortgage payment on their behalf, right?
Yeah, it stays in their name, correct.
It stays in their name. So have you ever had a mortgage company come back to you and say, hey, you're paying this mortgage as opposed to the seller, it's not cool or whatever? I know that they can do that. It's in the loan agreement or something, right?
Yeah, it's a due on sale clause. It's a contractual issue between them and the seller. I haven't met a bank in my 28 years that wants property. So you keep it paid. If you don't keep it paid, you have a headache.
Yeah.
And there's also the Garment-St. Germain Act, I think I'm saying it right, of 82-ish or something like that, where it allows the homeowner to put it in a trust for family planning reasons. We're not family, but we use some naming and some trust so that it does give you another layer of protection, so to speak.
Right.
And there's important ways, Agostino, to ensure it, to communicate it, so you don't trigger things. And we have a lot of that on YouTube for free. I mean, they can go check it out on the channel.
Right. And I think that those older clauses, though, I don't think it's in the new contracts anymore, right? Those are some of the older ones.
The due on sale?
No, not that one. The Saint Germain, whatever it was.
Saint Germain, that's just an act that came out that said they could do that. That doesn't mean the bank's going to write it in their agreement. It's just a go around, a workaround if they come knocking. That's all. Excellent.
Now you mentioned in the green room books, right?
Yeah, we got 2 of the best sellers. You can go on Amazon, but what I'll do for the listeners is if they go to free, F-R-E-E, SRECbook.com. So free SREC book, SREC, so we get the letters right, stands for Smart Real Estate Coach. Free SRECbook.com. They'll get the real estate on your terms, and the brand new book that I wrote with Zach, my son-in-law, and Nick, my son, is on Amazon as well. It's the new rules of real estate investing.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to include a link to that in the description as well. So it's going to be great. All right, guys. Well, if you want to reach out to Chris, you can reach him via his company website at smartrealestatecoach.com. Don't forget to download that book and check out his podcast as well. I'll include the links to that. Thank you for your time, Chris. Greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the Bulletproof Cashflow podcast. For more free podcasts, articles, videos, and resources, go to www.bulletproofcashflow.com.